Hey guys, my name is Lily and today I want to make a fire steel video. Stay tuned. So today I want to practice my fire steel skills and I want to see which natural materials I can light up with the fire steels here in nature. And most people actually carry some sort of tinder with them, like for example cotton. And tampons are great. They always stay dry inside of this plastic sheet, plastic packaging. And cotton is really one of the best tinders. So if you can, I would add a couple of tampons to your kit because these are real lifesavers, especially in moist conditions. And before we ignite this, I first want to show you two different methods of how you can ignite some tinder with the fire steel. So the first one is, let's imagine the tinder is here now. The first one is that you just pull back the fire steel like that. And the problem with this technique is that you're quite far away from the tinder, so the spark has to travel this much of a distance, and if it has to travel this far it will cool down. But with tinders like these it's not a problem, okay? Because this is so super fine that it doesn't need a hot spark, so it can also take a low temperature spark and still ignite. Okay, so now we are burning. So the first fire steel technique is widely used by a lot of bushcrafters and survivalists, but it's actually not my favorite technique. So my favorite fire steel technique is the pinching down method. So I just take my fire steel and I pinch down the tinder so it can't move away. And then I just drop some sparks into it. Here we go. Alright, so the fire steel works great on artificial tinders, on wax tinders, on cotton tinders and other man-made tinders. Now the thing is, what if you don't have that in the wilderness? What if you only have a fire steel, and which natural materials can you use together with your fire steel? Okay, so now it's February here in Austria and there are many dead plants around that we can use, and the first one that I want to use is this one. So this has some fluffy material. It's a flower and it's very fluffy. So this is the first tinder that we are going to use with both of the fire steel techniques. Okay, finally. So as you can see, it doesn't burn properly. As you just saw, this tinder would not ignite with the first technique because we were too far away from the tinder itself. And also with the pinching down method, it took me quite some while to get this lit. So this looks fluffy, but it's actually not easy to ignite. And what I usually do is I am taking this plant and I mix it together with grass. And with this combination it works so much better. Okay, so now I will search for the next tinder. I think I'm going to go for grass. Okay, now here we have some plain grass leaves, and grass is great because it's one of the best tinders, but this kind here is really broad, so it doesn't have any fine fibers like this, and this is why you want to take it and crush it in between your hands. You can make a ball and then roll it in your hands like that, and this will expose the fibers, and then you get very, very fine stuff. And the spark of a fire steel is really hot, so it's much hotter than the spark of a flint and steel, but still the finer the fibers are, the better it is for the fire steel and the faster it will work. And now let's try to ignite it again with our fire steel. Here we go. Finally. Okay, let's say you're in a survival situation, but you cannot find grass or other small plants that are dry because everything is wet or because they don't even exist. So for example, in jungle areas you won't find grass a lot, at least in some areas, so not in all, but sometimes in the jungle you won't find these small plants that are really dry. So if you cannot find that, you have another chance of making and creating a tinder bundle by scraping, for example, old and dead standing trees or logs that are lying over the ground. So here, for example, we have a willow branch, and as you can see, this has been dead for a long time and the bark is already coming off. And the great thing is that willows and also cedar trees and many other trees in Mother Nature, they have this really nice cambium layer in between the bark and the wood, and with this cambium layer you can make a really fine tinder nest. So what you have to do now is you want to collect the fine and the dry stuff from the tree or the log. So this is going to take much longer than collecting dry grasses. Okay, here again the tinder is very coarse, so I want to make a small ball in my hands and wrap it like this. Here we go. It's burning. Yeah! Pinching down for the wind. I only got a little bit of, like, it's not a flame, so it doesn't work. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is a really good tinder. So thumbs up for this tinder. Now there are many tinders that you can find in the wilderness, but the absolute best tinder is grass seeds. Event that you cannot find any grasses or dry bark or other plant materials that are dry, the last resort is carving yourself some feather sticks. So here I have a dry willow branch, and if you are cracking wood and it breaks easily, that means that it's dry at the inside. And the first branch that I took, it didn't break easily. That meant that it hasn't been dead for a long time. So take wood which is snapping easily. So the pulling back technique does not work on these kind of feather sticks. So out of all tinders, okay, so out of all tinders that you can use for a fire, wooden shavings or feather sticks are probably the hardest to ignite because they are quite thick, much thicker than grass would be. But it's still working. As you just saw, it worked really well with the pinching down method. And this is why I believe that the pinching down method is superior to the pulling back method. And this is why, yeah, I mostly use the pinching down method. Now the pulling back method is for very fine tinders, like for example cotton, or for igniting alcohol stove when you don't want to come too near to the alcohol or ethanol. So that's when I would use the pulling back method. But for all other tinders I'm always using the pinching down method because you will come much closer with your hot sparks. And of course your fire steel will get deformed with the time, so you will get a divot here with this technique, and down here it's still quite round, so you will get some deformation, but I really don't care about that because I will need much less strikes than with the pulling back method, so my fire steel is going to last much longer anyway. So what if you are in a survival situation but you cannot find anything that is dry? So when I was in Africa, I could not find any grass, I could not find any other dry material. Also the dry standing wood was moist at the inside because it was shortly after the raining season. So now I want to try if I can get a fire done with the pinching down method with wet tinder. Okay, so this is the stick that I've submerged for about 30 seconds and it's really wet at the outside. So the first thing that I would do now is I would let it dry by the wind and sun. And also you can take your clothing and use it to clean off the stick. Now I make feather sticks just like before. So now I'm rubbing off the palm. Yeah! Nice! So it really helps if you rub off a little bit of the fire steel beforehand and then use the fire steel on the shavings, on the magnesium shavings that you have put into the tinder beforehand. Okay, so this was how you can light even wood that has been slightly wet, at least at the outside. So it would be quite similar when it's raining, so the inside of the wood is always dry, or most of the time it's dry, and then the outside is wet. But as long as you shave off the outside and get to the inside of the wood, you should be fine and you should have some dry tinder. You can also use wood shavings for tinder bundles for the bow drill, and all of the other tinders that I showed you today are working with the bow drill as well. Okay, so this is it for today, and I gotta say that a lot of people have fire steels but they don't practice regularly, and that's really important because sometimes it's very tricky to make a fire with the fire steel. So the more you practice, the better you will get at using the fire steel. I want to thank you for watching, and you can get this fire steel and this knife here at my website. The links are in the description below. Stay tuned till next time.